All right, guys, we are here today. We have special guest Chris Dempsey, former UFC and Bellator fighter. We're going to talk a little bit about, I don't know, I guess we'll see what we're going to talk about.
You guys are going to surprise me with some questions here now, aren't you?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So one thing I was going to talk about was the feeling you had when you got that call from UFC. You were, I believe, 10-1 at the time, and that's a dream of a lot of fighters, is to get that call. So what were the emotions like at that time? How was that?
I actually remember exactly what I was doing, exactly where I was when I found out. I was working. I was managing a warehouse. And so my manager called me and asked me if I had a passport, and just randomly out of nowhere. And I was like, yeah, I got a passport. Why? And he said, oh, well, you're probably going to get this fight as long as you have a passport, because you have to fly to Dublin in 3 days.
Oh, yeah.
And so I thought it was going to go through, but I wasn't quite sure yet. And so he calls me back, and while I'm on the phone with him, I get an email from Joe Silva, and it says, "Congratulations, welcome to the UFC." And so then I had to get all the flight plans and everything. And so I kind of just walked into my boss's office and was like, "Hey, I'm going to need the next 3 weeks off. You guys don't have to pay me. Don't worry about it." And he kind of just looked at me, and he was confused. And I said, "Oh, I got called. I'm fighting in Dublin for the UFC." And they had gave me the job because they were one of my sponsors at the time anyway. So he kind of just chuckled and thought I was kidding. And I told him I was serious. And he said, "Well, good luck. I'll see you in 3 weeks."
So walk us through that. What was it like fighting in Dublin for your first ever UFC fight on short notice?
So the fighting part, it's all the same. I mean, no matter if you're fighting in front of 5 people or 5 million people, to me, it never made a difference. The craziest part for me was we went to weigh-ins, and I mean, we're literally just weighing in, a bunch of guys in their underwear up on the stage, and there's 10,000 people there for weigh-ins. And I was like, wow, there's no way this many people want to see all these guys weigh in. But it was.
So it was who is the main event card of your first ever UFC fight?
It was Conor McGregor versus Diego Brandao.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first fight where everybody knew he was going to be a big deal. I couldn't imagine being on that card.
So for your first UFC fight, you got to share, or you got to have a big moment of UFC. Conor McGregor's just becoming this big deal. He's going to Ireland to fight, and you have the honor to, be on that same card and share that moment. Was that the moment where you was like, oh shoot, this is real, I made it? Did everything sort of sink in at that moment, or was it later on?
It kind of, the moment was when I read the email from Joe Silva, because before that we were in contact with Joe Silva and with Bellator a little bit, just trying to get on one of their cards, and Bellator had reached out about 2 or 3 weeks before a last replacement fight for them, and they weren't going to guarantee anything or anything like that. And so we said no. And I remember when we said no to that, I was like, well, did I just mess up my career? Did I make the wrong decision by turning down one of the premier promotions so that I could try to get on the other one? Now, at the time, Bellator wasn't nearly as big as it is now. So it was a significant step down to fight for Bellator than UFC at that point. And so getting that email from Joe Silva was like, I didn't mess everything up. It all worked out. I'm glad that I had some patience and waited for the right call.
Mm-hmm.
So once you fly over there, you get to Ireland, you're at the weigh-ins, you see that crazy crowd. What's your mentality like? Was there ever any moment where you started doubting yourself, like, oh my God, can I do this?
No, I do remember thinking like, well, this is going to be a test because, I mean, if you look like, especially back then, maybe not so much anymore, but back then, like the people who fought, it's like, okay, you're the toughest guy in your town. And my one friend from high school actually described it to me like this once. He said, when you fight on those big stages and stuff, it's like, oh, you're the toughest guy in my town. I'm the toughest guy in my town. Let's see whose town's tougher. And so, like, I remember thinking that when I was going in there, but I never really had like any doubts like the whole time I was fighting. Like, I mean, you got to make the decision like, hey, you signed a contract, you're getting in this cage, and he's going to try to take your head off, so you got to go try to take his head off.
I've seen, I remember when Cheyenne hit me up about coming to train, she's like, yeah, me and my boyfriend, Chris Dempsey. And that name sounded so familiar. I looked back, and I was like, oh, I know that guy. I remember watching him back in the day, man. I used to be really big into DraftKings, and I would watch all the cards and, have lineups. I remember specifically, I think he fought an Australian guy at one point, or English guy.
English guy. I fought an English guy.
Yeah, and he had knees from the clinch and stuff. I remember that fight. Dude, you fought some murderers. You fought Ilir Latifi. I used to be really big on Ilir Latifi. What was it like?
That was the Dublin card, man. Yeah,
was that your debut? Oh my God. Good Lord. I would have been afraid. I know that. You're a braver man than me.
We did some research on him, and he was like a Swedish wrestler. And like, I'll take USA wrestling over Swedish wrestling. And we didn't really know that he had developed his striking to where he was. And so I had, at that point, never taken a striking class in my entire life.
Wow.
And so we're like,
I remember those low kicks. I remember him landing those really hard low kicks.
Yep. I reached down for to catch one of the low kicks, and he threw that right hook and just knocked me out.
You landed a beautiful right hook of your own in that fight. I remember because you like that front headlock a lot. I can tell. Yeah. And you had that front headlock, and like as he broke out of it, you landed a really nice right hook.
Well, so that was the plan. Is I figured I'm gonna try to get to that front headlock and go for a quick submission, and then coming back home, I would have been able, because when you fight, you make half your money to show up, and then you make your other half to win. So I was thinking, well, now I can train full time. I don't have to work a full time job if I win this fight, and it can kind of springboard my career. And I'll start taking striking classes after I've already made it there. Which
I got to find ridiculous. A kickboxing coach.
Right. So I had him in that front headlock, and he was fighting for his life to get out of that front headlock. He got out. He started landing them low kicks, and that was kind of the beginning to the end.
So what was life like before you got that call to the UFC? You say you were working a full-time job. What were you doing?
So I started out, I was working, I was doing landscaping and snow removal for one of my high school football coaches, just because it fit in with my schedule and everything. And then one of my good friends from high school, his dad was working for this company, and he brought a whole bunch of people to one of my fights. So they asked to sponsor me. And I was like, yeah, sure, that'd be awesome. And then they found out that I didn't have health insurance and hadn't had health insurance in like 7 years. And I was cage fighting people without health insurance. So they offered me a job so that I could have health insurance and stuff. And it was 7 to 3 Monday through Friday. And I could take a lunch break. And there was it's right outside of where I work, so I could go run a couple miles during lunch. They had a shower there, so it worked out really good. And I'm still like friends with all those guys that I worked with back then, and they were always real supportive. But I mean, I would wake up 2 days a week at like 5 a.m. and lift, and then go to work, and then I would work 40 hours a week, sometimes overtime, and then I would have to train at night. So basically, most days I was going from 6 in the morning until about 11 at night. And then trying to wind down after practice and get some sleep before the next day started.
So how did you get into MMA? I know you have a wrestling background and you're really extensive sports background in general, but you think that was just your logical next step as a wrestler?
So when I went to UPJ, it's University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown. I know it's a Pitt school, but don't Pitt, Maine. We used to say that we were the main campus, so we know that West Virginia doesn't like Pitt. We don't get along, so don't take it that way.
That's right.
Yeah, Cheyenne went to WVU, and I went to a Pitt branch school, so that's pretty funny to like talk about, discuss. But when I was there was a guy who he was fighting at the time. He wrestled at UPJ. He was a 6-time national champ for wrestling, 3 in Division II and 3 in Division I. And then he played for the Steelers. He got drafted by Chuck Noll and played for the Steelers for a while and bounced around the NFL. And when he got out, he decided he was going to start fighting. His name's Carlton Hasselrick. And he needed somebody to work out with. And my college coach asked me if I wanted to work out with him. And I said, yeah, he's a legend in football and in wrestling. So, of course, I want to work out with him. And then towards the end of my senior year, I moved in with him and his family and just kind of started fighting, and it just snowballed from there.
So what was it like whenever you're walking into the cage, because people talk about savor the moment, like in your first ever fight, if it's an amateur fight or your first pro fight, but obviously now you're on a different stage. Everything, it's the dream that every kid dreams of, you know what I mean? So did you take a moment before you walked into the cage at Dublin just to look around and be like, wow, like I'm here, I made it? Or was it more kind of like afterwards, like it was strictly business going into the cage, and afterwards you was able to say, oh shoot, I just did that?
Well, so that moment for me was like, we walked into weigh-ins early. And so like the crowd wasn't there yet. It was just like a big empty arena. And so we walked out and we kind of saw the whole setup of everything, and just seeing how big it was and like the magnitude of it, it was like, wow, like exactly what you just said is like, I made it, I'm here now. And afterward, during the day of the fight, I mean, that's all business. It's like, you can't worry about anything outside of your own person, because that's all that you really have going in there. And afterwards, I had to go get checked out, make sure my brain wasn't scrambled. So I didn't really get to see anything afterwards. That moment when I was like, oh, I'm here, I finally got here. It was definitely walking into the arena the first time, completely empty, seeing everything set up and just seeing the magnitude of it.
That's an awesome feeling.
Definitely. I mean,
yeah,
I had an offer to go to University of North Carolina to be a graduate assistant, and I could have got my law degree for free by going there, and I chose to fight instead. So that was another whole moment of, well, I could have been a lawyer for free or pursued this dream. So to actually have it all culminate to like making it to the UFC, it was like, all right, I made the right decision. Like I accomplished what I wanted to.
You only live once.
There are probably a whole lot more lawyers out there in the world.
That's what I was going to say. A lot of people have a law office. Not a lot of people get to get to make a walkout for the UFC, so.
Yeah, and I like to travel a lot. And so, I wouldn't probably have had the opportunities I had to travel, or really pursued more opportunities to travel if it wasn't for that. Because I mean, I got to go to London. I got to go to Ireland. I fought in Nashville, and it was just seeing all those new places and being able to travel like that really helped me find the itch to go travel and see new things too.
What was your favorite city that you got to go to when you were doing this?
when I was fighting, my favorite city that I went to was Dublin for sure.
I couldn't imagine. I got to go to London when I was younger. Actually, I've got a big soft spot for Pittsburgh in my heart. So I was a student ambassador when I was a kid, and I went with a big group of kids from Pittsburgh. Loved them. They were wild.
That describes Pittsburgh pretty well.
Oh, man, I still love them. I still have fond memories of Pittsburgh, and I've never even been.
Well, you have to come up. You have to come up and train sometime.
Come get beat up by you. That's an honor.
That would be awesome.
So Chris, what time is it in Pittsburgh right now? Because I know they still run on Tebow time, right?
Man, I should have knew I was going to get some crap from being from Pittsburgh.
So I want to talk about your second fight. So I remember watching that. You know, I didn't know a lot about you back then, but I watched that fight live. And Eddie Gordon had a ton of hype around him at the time. You know, he had won the Ultimate Fighter. He really had a hard push from UFC, and they were really pushing him to be one of their top guys. And what was that like? You're coming off the fight with Latifi, and then you're going against the hype machine, Eddie Gordon.
So I've always kind of been an underdog my whole life, so I like that. And I fought in Dublin in July, and I didn't have that Eddie Gordon fight until April of the next year. So it had been almost a year since I fought. So I was kind of itching to get in there and to prove myself, because I remember I was riding to the hospital after the Dublin fight, and my coach had lied to me and told me I was on a one fight deal or arbitration deal. And then I'm mad at myself. I'm like, I blew it. I'm never going to get an opportunity again. And he smacks me in the chest and he's like, shut up. You have 3 more fights. And I was like, no way. So
before the fight, he's like, you have to win this. You have to win.
And he's like, well, I know how your brain works. And I know that if I told you that you weren't going to hold anything back. And so I get why I did it, but it was just Mike King and his coach were also in the same van with us, and Mike King did not get the same offer as I did, so they were a little bit upset, and I was pretty happy about that when I found out. But I mean, it gave me thinking about it over almost a year. I was ready to get in there. I was ready to fight. I knew that I was the underdog, and I have been almost my entire life. So I was ready for that one. And I was itching to get in there.
What's the atmosphere like in a UFC locker room before the fight?
So they've all been different. The first, Dublin, it was just tense the whole time. And it was because of Connor. Connor, I remember right after we weigh in, every time there's a meeting with it's just the fighters and Dana White. The corners aren't even allowed in there. And so the first one I went to, McGregor is talking all this trash to Diego, and I had been I've been made friends with Diego in the practice rooms. We just had happened to be in there all the time, and I liked him. He was a good guy and just real humble. He didn't even speak English, but you could just tell by his mannerisms and everything. And so Connor throws this full water bottle and barely misses Diego and hits this aluminum roll down garage door. And it sounded like a gunshot. We're like, what the heck just happened? So I see Diego get up, and I went over, I grabbed Diego, and my back's turned to everything else is going on. So we get him calmed down because there was nobody else in there. I turn around, and Latifi's the one who grabbed Connor, and we were the main event of the undercard. And I was like, what are the chances of both of us grabbing these two? And it was just but then I was in London. I shared a locker room with Anderson Silva, and he had all the legends in there. And it was the most laid back, calm, chilled locker room environment I've ever been in.
We've all done it a million times before, I guess. It's that's what they do. No nerves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Nogueira was in there.
Oh my God.
Doom was in there. Everybody was in there. And it was just.
How were you not just like fanboying out the whole time? That's what I'd be doing.
So my dad was a police officer in a really like high dollar town. And so there was a lot of athletes that lived up there. There was a lot of like really like, I guess like Pittsburgh famous kind of people that lived up there. And then Carlton playing for the Steelers when he did in the height of their and the height of like the 90s when they were really good. Like I got to meet a lot of people through him, and I just kind of been around like quote unquote famous people my entire life. So I like it was like just normal to me. And I looked at those guys and I said, well, if I want to be here and I want to be considered legitimate, then I have to look at them as no different than me. So I just kind of took that stance that we're here all fighting on the same card. We're all on the same level. And like, I don't really care what everybody else thinks about them. And that's kind of what I did.
Was that the card that Anderson fought Bisping on in England?
Yeah.
Okay. That was a wild night.
Yeah, and I actually almost got into a Bisping going to weigh-ins that day.
Wow.
Because we're going to weigh in, and they put us on this bus, and this bus is like, you're allowed one corner and yourself. That's it. And so Bisping, because it was his hometown and everything, he's like, no, I'm bringing my dad and my girlfriend. And I think it was some girl he was dating for like a week or something. I don't know. And so I'm behind him. I was the last one to get on the bus, and he's fighting with UFC people. And I was like, dude, we're all hungry. Just shut up and get on the bus. And he looked at me like, who are you, kid? Which obviously, like, he doesn't know who I am, or like, so why would he? And I was like, dude, I'm hungry. Just get on the bus. And like, they like just broke us up and like shuffled him on the bus.
Well, that's one to tell your grandkids right there.
I have a bad habit of not having a filter.
I can't blame you if it's right after weigh-ins. I'd be hungry too.
Yeah, like, I mean, the faster we got there, the faster we could drink and eat and do it, any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to eat.
So would it be an appropriate question to ask? Do you have any connections with maybe Conor McGregor or Joe Rogan that you could, just?
I don't, and I don't think that I don't think Conor's a big fan of mine either. So
what's your beef with Conor? What kind of interactions did you guys have?
So I only really had one interaction with him, but it obviously wasn't positive. So when I went over there, I was over there with one of my teammates, Dom Mazzata, and he was being the typical fanboy and like wanting to take pictures with everybody. So I had no idea who Conor McGregor was even at that point. And he comes up the escalator and Dom runs over to him. He's like, can you take his picture? So I'm the one fighting, and I'm taking pictures of him with other people fighting on the card. And I'm like, what in the heck is going on? So he looks at me, Conor looks at me and goes, do you want a picture too? And I just looked at him and was like, no. And I walked by him, and he got like kind of mad about that. And I was like, I don't know who you are. So
well, we know he punched an old man for not drinking his whiskey.
I want a picture with Conor.
That's wild. That's badass. He's like, nah, I don't want a picture with you. Why would I?
Dude, that whiskey is disgusting.
Don't you ever trash the proper 12 whiskey.
I've heard it's pretty bad.
No, it's not.
Bad.
It's proper.
He sells it on his name.
What do you guys think about
him? He's done really well. He's done better than anybody in our sport has as far as marketing himself.
Oh, Lord.
It's kind of miraculous.
Yeah.
How about Anderson Silva's boxing right now, man? How about that? Beating Julio Cesar Chavez, man.
I can't believe he beat Cesar Chavez. Like, I mean, that was a big win for MMA, especially after Tyrone losing.
I was so happy. I didn't want to watch it. When I heard about it, I was like, this is going to be bad. But it surprised me in the best way.
Yeah, I was worried. I saw a couple interviews. What's up, Cash? I saw a couple interviews that he's done, and he was just like, I'm going to fight for the rest of my life. Like, that's what I do. That's who I am. So, I mean, he's definitely taking it serious and everything. So it's nice to see him be able to do something afterwards. I mean, he was such a good fighter that it's good to see him be able to continue that and like do what he loves to do.
Yeah. So if Anderson at this point fought Jake Paul, if they boxed, who do you think wins that?
I think Anderson would crush him.
I gotta do too. I don't think Jake wants any of that smoke right now.
Anderson's just so different, man. He's just got such a different style, even in boxing.
Yeah, he was doing a lot of like traditional martial arts stuff, like in that boxing match. It was weird.
Yeah,
he's what's awesome about him is he's a student of the game. Like he's always trying to evolve in every way. I mean, he's known widely as just a phenomenal striker, which he is, but he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu at a very high level on top of that.
Yep.
Is his black belt under the Nogueira brothers? I can't quite remember. I believe he was under them. Yeah. They've got all kinds of great black belts. Their legacy is incredible.
Yes, 100%.
Who do you get rank under? I was curious for a brown belt now, right? Did you just get your black? I heard you might have. That's awesome.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. I got it under Isaac Greeley. We have a loose affiliation with ATT. Isaac gets his belts under Rodrigo Ramos. He owns American Top Team in Weston and Davie. And then we sent a couple fighters down to American Top Team in Coconut Creek as well. So we're pretty well connected with them. So if we would technically have an affiliation, it would be with them, but we're kind of our own gym right now.
We're going to be having another American Top Team guy on probably at the beginning of January. It's Jeff Monson. I don't know if you've ever crossed paths with him. Yeah. He's been around forever too. We're getting bigger and bigger, aren't we? We've got 2 UFC guys on already.
That's awesome. How long has the podcast been running?
You're our 3rd episode.
No way. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Episode 3.
Yeah, the first one we originally didn't even intend to do a podcast. We were doing like a pre-fight interview, with me and Austin, and ended up talking for 2 hours and thought, hey, maybe people want to listen to this.
It's cool that you guys are doing it, and like I like being at the beginning. Like I was the first person from Pittsburgh to make it to the UFC, and like we've had a couple guys since, and I mean Kama has just came out of the UFC, but I mean Kama had a pretty successful career, and like it was kind of cool to be the first one. And I mean nobody can ever take that away from me now.
It's going to be a story.
Kama's first fight, Kama's first fight surprised a lot of people. And
here's the thing that most people don't realize about that. Devontae trained with us for years. So Kama and Devontae have sparred probably hundreds of times in the room down here. So everybody was, and they're hyping up Devontae big time because he's young and Devontae is good. I mean, pound for pound, Devontae hits harder than some of the people that I've ever seen. But that fight was always that it was always going to be different because Kama and Devontae were friends. Kama and Devontae are still friends. They've sparred each other hundreds of times, so you don't even have to watch film because you literally get to practice against the guy. So I knew that fight was going to be, and for me, it was kind of bittersweet because I'm friends with Devontae and Kama both, and now that Devontae's out in Colorado, like I don't really see him that much anymore, and I've kind of became closer with Kama. But when that fight happened, I remember watching. I was actually on vacation in Nashville, and I made sure that I was somewhere where I could watch that fight, and I didn't want to see either one of them lose. So it was like, no matter what happens, I'm going to be kind of sad here and kind of happy there. So
yeah. So when you saw the matchup, you're like, really? One of these guys has to lose. Yeah. So what was the MMA scene like in Pittsburgh when you had just got into it? Because I know it's a lot different from West Virginia, but and how was it then, and how is it now? Like if you can, So what's it evolved into?
everybody was separated back then as far as gym wise. Like we had Pittsburgh Fight Club, we had us, we had Stout. There's all American, but they weren't really. They were far enough out where they didn't really like get in that whole drama, the scene. One of the gym owners was just kind of talking trash on all the other gyms, and then he had got out of the picture, and we had started cross training a little bit, and we're like, oh hey, we don't hate each other. We can do this all together. So like now the gym scene is all the major gyms here in Pittsburgh. We all train together now because it's our gyms are smaller. They're not like the ones down in Texas and California and Florida where you can just fight and practice against the people in your own gym and have enough practice partners. We have to kind of mold together just because we don't have the bodies, and everybody has their own little specialty and like their own thing they're good at. So it's nice to get those different looks and get the different partners in to train against.
It's amazing you mentioned that, like in West Virginia and Kentucky and all the places I've seen, these small communities, you see so much drama between gyms, and it never made any sense to me because we're all trying to grow this same sport and it's not a big community. Like if we ever want to be serious, we're going to have to work together.
Yep. And I mean, that's one thing that we push huge here with all the major gyms anyway, because I think the problem is you have these people who are afraid to lose their students. So they don't want to send them to another gym and then look at it and be like, oh, I really like this stuff. I'm just going to start coming here. Like I get it. I guess some people are trying to run a business and make it more business-like than actual martial arts. But
well, I don't know if it's even that. I think it's an ego thing. I really do. I think there's a big problem with gym owners that like, it's all about them. It's there to feed their ego. Like that's really what the gym's there for. When I started my place, I was like, it can't be about me. I'm not that good. I know I'm not. So like, as long as it's not about me and it's about everybody else, I think we'll do all right. That's where you get problems though, when it becomes about them. It becomes about the owner.
Yeah. And like a lot of boxing coaches are like this. Like boxing coaches don't want you to get other boxing coaches because they want to put their stamp on you. Like they want, when you go out there, they want to be like, oh, well, that guy trains with so-and-so. And I think you're limiting yourself when you do that. I mean, if you're only learning one style, one technique and things like that, you can't really grow because you're stuck in one little box.
Do you think that that's a kind of a difference in MMA and like the old school boxing mentality? Because you see a lot more cross training, I think, with MMA guys. Yeah, I think that's a big difference. And not to try to toot the sport I love's horn the most, is the wrestling community is very small, and you had a huge influx of wrestlers who come into the mixed martial arts. So we go to college and then we go back to our hometowns. So you have your teammates that are going to different gyms all over the area. So we kind of like brought it together because I trained at the Mat Factory, and one of my teammates might have trained at some place in State College. So, okay, it's 4 hours away, but if I'm in the area, then I'm going to stop in and I'm going to see my friend and get some work in too. I think that's how it's always been for jiu-jitsu for me too. Like you're traveling and stuff, you want to stop wherever there's a place, and you meet new friends. You start your circle starts growing. You know people all over the place, and I'm sure that's how it is for you. You've probably got gyms all over the country. Like if I'm here, I'll go train here.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's like I actually got a message on Facebook today. I was in Bradenton, Florida, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna find a gym. So one of the guys from the gym, he said, hey, I'm going to be in Pittsburgh Sunday for the Steeler game. Do you have any suggestions? So just stopping into that gym, like I got to like meet a new friend and make a new connection. So that's why
just talking about stopping into my gym, you got on a podcast.
Yeah. We didn't even make it over there.
I know.
That's what I think I love about the jiu-jitsu community so much, is it's like, yeah, you're trying to choke each other out. You're trying to break each other's arms, like all that stuff. But as soon as you walk off the mat, everybody's just so happy-go-lucky and like wants to like get better together.
I think it helps you, like, strangling each other really helps you get rid of the bullshit. Like, it
How
really
do you think me and Cheyenne work?
I was going to mention that. What's it like being a fighter couple? Like having a girlfriend who's a fighter too. I bet your guys' arguments can get pretty intense.
No, we don't really argue too much. I think it's because we get to take it out in the gym.
Yeah, you'd have to go to war. Yeah. Nobody wants to get knocked out every time you get in a spat.
All right.
No.
Yeah. What, you want to spar? We'll spar right here, right now. Come on.
Let's roll right now.
But funny story, Tuesday this week, we're wrestling practice at the gym, and Isaac, or the head coach, was he was like, "Oh yeah, the savage life is a lonely life," and like talking about the savage life. And he said, "So if you can find somebody that you can have the savage life with, you better hang on to them." And me and her looked up and looked at each other at the same time. We're just like, "All right, we're nerds. Like, we gotta get out of here."
So what's next for you? What's next for Chris Dempsey? I know you've had a few setbacks in your career. What's next? What's next on the path? You going to fight again?
No more fighting. I'm going to pursue a jiu-jitsu career now. I mean, I've got to compete against some of the best in the world at black belt when I was still a purple and brown belt. And I lost some matches, but I was right in there I had a match against Keenan Duarte, and he's arguably top 3 pound for pound in the world. And I mean, he ended up beating me, submitted me in a heel hook, but I hung right in there with him the whole match. So I got to get a little bit better. I got to defend the leg stuff a little bit better, but that's the path I'm going to take now. Is next thing that I have planned for sure is ADCC West Coast Trials. I got to win IBJJF Worlds at purple belt and brown belt. So the next 2 things is win ADCCs and win IBJJF Pan and Worlds at black belt.
Well, you need to come train with me before you win Worlds so I can tell everybody that I train.
Well, we're actually planning on hopefully coming down there at the end of the month. So we'll have to make sure that we don't get caught up in holiday plans like we did last time.
I'll tell you what, I was so worried when I found out you guys were coming. Like, for days, I was like, oh my God, they're going to see how small my gym is. Like, I know it's not what you're used to, but I'm excited to have you.
We actually have, like, as far as physical space, like, we have a very small gym. I mean, we're on top of each other half the time. And I mean, we've produced a lot of high-level fighters out of there.
I've seen a lot of places like that. I mean, I think compared to the giant gyms, in my experience, you don't get as much time, like, to work with the students. Like, and you're at small gyms, you're rolling with like a handful of guys.
Yep.
So everything they pick up on and learn, you're like, I got to learn that, because whatever they're tapping you with, you got to pick up on it really quick. So they've got to start changing what they're doing, learn something new. You kind of evolve quickly that way.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're rolling with 100 guys, you can get away with stuff for a long time.
Yeah. Like there was a guy, he's a purple belt. And he's very, like, he scrambles very well. He's always moving. And I would get my choke, like, cause I like chokes, front chokes all the time. So I would get it on most people, but then he just started to figure out how to scramble out of it. And if I didn't have him figuring that out and trying to get out of my chokes, that my choke game would have never developed nearly as to what it is right now without him.
I'm a big guillotine guy too. I love all the front chokes, arming guillotines, even Darce's, anacondas. I had to basically move away from them because everybody gets so wise to them. You're training with the same dudes over and over. They get to the point where they're getting pretty damn hard to guillotine.
Yep. When I come down there, we'll have to trade some ideas.
You're definitely not trade ideas. You're going to have to teach me your ways. I'm not going to pretend I've got anything to offer you. I've got a few little tricks, but I like the Marcella team, like the high elbow style guillotine.
Yeah, me
I like
too.
that one a lot. I do an inverted gable grip with my arm in that I've not seen a lot of people do. I like that a lot.
So I actually do that. I learned that getting ready for my fight against Ed Ruth, because, I mean, let's face it, Ed Ruth was his 3-time national champ, and his double leg was one of the best in the country. So we planned on him hitting that double leg and getting it.
Yeah.
And when you invert that grip on the gable grip, even if he passes to side, you can still hit the choke from there. So that's why I learned that choke.
It's so nasty. It's like there's so much more leverage with the arm in with that grip. It changed my game.
You can sweep somebody from just that inverted grip.
Oh yeah, it's so tight. I've seen people tap before you even like from standing with it a lot, like just really crank the neck with it. I like Japanese neckties. I like Peruvians. I like a lot of weird stuff like that. I trained with some really good black belts. That's who I was under, and I was like, I gotta figure stuff out that they're not going to be used to seeing and try to get good at that. Maybe I'll catch them. It didn't really work that well. But.
Well, my choke game is like nothing compared to you guys. My whole MMA game was based on getting top position, punch somebody in the face, and keep top position. That was it. Keep my distance, and that was
pretty
such
much
a
my
limited submission game. Yep,
that was pretty much the same for me.
So yeah, next month all three of us are fighting. It's funny. I'm the promoter. Elijah, the matchmaker. Austin is the pretty face of the company. He's our main commentator. He interviews fighters after the fights. And
here I thought I was our main commentator, you bastard.
All three of us are fighting on the card, and it's pretty funny. And in Austin, making his debut. Elijah, your last fight was 3 years ago. Man, I haven't fought in forever. I quit. I had stepped away 2008, and then I came back. I did one boxing match in 2012, 1 and 13. Had back surgery, tore my back to pieces. Never thought I would do it again, and here I am making my pro boxing debut next month on my own card. So
that has to be stressful.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You want to talk about stress? My last fight 3 years ago was at 165. I'm fighting at heavyweight now. So, and I kept telling Keith and everybody, I was like, I will never fight a heavyweight. Got to lose some weight. Got to get in shape. Here we are.
So when I was in college, I wrestled heavyweight, and I weighed I got up to about 280 pounds. And I remember our 97 pounders, our 165 pounders, like everybody was like, I'll never be bigger than you. Now, 12 years removed from college, every single one of them is bigger than me now. So I like to rub it right in their faces every single time.
It creeps up on you. It really does. But I had really one more question for you, and that's all. And if you could talk to these young guys, these young fighters who are just starting out, you've had such a full career, ups and downs. I think I see a lot of young guys, they take one loss and they think, oh, it's over for me. So what would you say to that?
I mean, so MMA or fighting in general, if it's not for the faint of heart, and it's something, and even if it's not MMA, whatever you're doing, you have to love it. Like, if you don't have that passion for it, then you can't do it. So, one, I would say don't let a loss deter you if you actually love it. And I mean, I lost early in my career. I lost my third fight, and it was frustrating, but I used it to motivate myself to train harder and to make sure that never happened again. So, I mean, just don't let it deter you, and actually use it to fuel you in a good way, because you're gonna lose no matter what you do. Everybody does. At some point or another, somebody's gonna lose. And if you don't have that passion and love for it, then you're never going to come back from it.
I think that's it for me. Austin, Keith, what do you got?
Yeah, I was going to say, with Austin here having his debut, he's early in his career, first time stepping in the ring. He's fighting a guy that he's had several fights. Austin's definitely going to be the better boxer. The other guy's got the experience. What kind of advice would you give Austin, stepping in for his first bout against an experienced fighter?
Just try to stay calm, because the more you do it and the more you're in there, the calmer you get. But and so he's going to have that advantage over you. So try not to think too much about it. I know some people like to get hyped up and everything, one technique that we used for our guys, and it worked really well for a lot of our guys, is like leading up to the fight until you're ready to start like warming up. Talk about anything else. Joke around, have fun. Like, don't even think about the fight that day until it's time to get ready for that fight.
I like that.
I'm excited. I am. I'm very excited for the fight. I'm very eager.
Yep. You're gonna have to change your screen there, Austin.
What happened?
So you're gonna have to change your screen where you got your opponent on your phone where you always see him. You gotta get him.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
He's trying to always stay pumped up. Yeah, you got to get that dude off your. You got him on your phone, right? He's the background of your phone. You got to get that dude off your phone, man.
He's
get him off your mind.
He's my background. But I mean, the only thing, like, I wish the fight was tomorrow. I'm very excited for it. But the training part, like, it's good that I still got a month away to get my cardio up. That's a big thing. I think technical wise, I'm okay. But if you can't breathe, then it's hard to stick to the technical stuff. So even at the house, I just been working on like 2-pound weights just over the head, just trying to get the cardio up, because I know the more cardio I have, the more technical and the more precise and everything.
So you're going to have an adrenaline dump. It's not 100%. You're going to have an adrenaline dump. Yeah. And it's going to happen. It happens to all of us. And so getting your cardio up, that's a good thing. But I would say what's more important than that is to blow your first lung before the fight happens. That way you're not blowing your first lung and having that adrenaline dump at the same time, because that can just be absolutely exhausting.
Yep.
So get a good hard warm up before the fight, in other words.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm glad the fight's a month away, because I've never been in this bad shape stepping in a ring before. I've been putting in some long rounds, man, putting in a lot of 15, 20-minute round or 15, 20 rounds, 4-minute rounds, trying to get myself ready. I'm 280 pounds right now. I still got the quick hands, man. I mean, when I fought, I was 160. My hands are still quick, but the footwork's gone. I'm just heavy.
You are fast. For a guy your size, it kind of surprises me every time I see you. He's a big boy. He's like 6'4".
Yeah, 6'4", 280. I feel weird bragging about it, but yeah, I do have fast hands for my size. But it was like, I think it came from the karate I did growing up or something. I don't know. I never trained boxing, but I turned into a pretty good boxer. So
you tell me, that. How you feel about yourself?
I'm a good boxer. At the low. I'm a good West Virginia boxer. If I go to Pittsburgh, I'm not a good boxer anymore. Once I get there, I'm just some guy. I got to stay away from Pittsburgh. I'm not a good boxer in Pittsburgh. I'm just a good boxer here in West Virginia. Lot. Chris, man, we appreciate you coming on, and it's been good talking to you and learning a lot about the other side of the UFC, what goes on behind the scenes. That's awesome, and getting to meet all those people.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on, and I can't wait to come down and get to roll with you guys and work out a little bit.
You owe me a training session. You and Cheyenne both.
I do.
Well, I should say you owe me a beating. You owe me a good beating. I'm looking forward to it.
No, I'm sure it's not going to be like that.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. You can be as humble as you want, but I know how it's going to go.
I'll make sure I bring the camera that day. I'm like, I finally get to record Elijah getting whooped. He's not picking on the 130 guys when we're rolling. He's getting what's coming.
We've got all heavyweights. You're the only 130 guy.
I'm the only 130 guy. So when I'm sparring, man, I'm taking a beating. Like, my punches ain't.
I'm always grabbing Austin. Like, let's go. I don't want to roll with those giants.
Yeah. Then when we roll, it's just like, what do I do?
You and Cheyenne can talk about that, because she always says that everybody's bigger than her, and she gets frustrated.
I feel like if the purpose of rolling is to get on the ground, we got some
monsters.
I always say, if we could just start from a standing position and then you have to try to take me down, I could just run. Like, I don't think you could get me. But since we're starting on the ground, I'm starting.
We've been doing a lot more wrestling lately. You need to come to class.
I got work, man.
I have terrible wrestling. I need your help. You're an All-American. I could use some help. I never wrestled growing up. I never had a wrestling team at my school. So my introduction to grappling was jiu-jitsu when I started at 15. And right now, even, I'm not that good of a wrestler. I'm okay off the wall, but normally I'm looking for that guillotine. That's why I got good at that stuff.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, if wrestling on the wall isn't that different from jiu-jitsu, you're just using the wall instead of the mat.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like out in the open, I feel hopeless. I really do. Like,
I hate wrestling out in the open. I love wrestling on a wall, but I hate wrestling out in the open. I hate it. But being 6'4", that helped a little bit.
Guys always think I'm like up to something. I've got a big master plan, but it's really, I just don't want to shoot. I'm just hoping you shoot on me so I can maybe guillotine you. And if I don't,
I never play that game.
Yeah, I think you could maybe relate.
Little bit.
Oh man, it's been a blast though. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
It's been awesome.
I appreciate you coming.
Thanks for having me on. If I don't talk to you guys beforehand, good luck to all you guys in your fights.
Absolutely. We'll have to
tell Cheyenne we're always looking for that girl to fight. Just everybody says no.
Yeah, we're running into that a lot. I mean, she's gonna have to stop beating people up so much.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Hey, like I said, she wants to box. I got somebody. So
I'll talk to her about it. I know she hasn't done that before, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
No problem. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Everybody have a good one.